Here's the video where I explain everything. I gotta talk kind of quick because I tried shooting this before. I got almost all the way through, but my phone only records for 30 minutes, so I gotta be fast. April of 2005, I got out of the Army. I came home around June of the same year. I had a job working at the mall. While working at the mall, I had met this girl who kept coming out to see me and talk to me and everything. She had been there every day from the time the mall opened to the time the mall closed. And originally I'd only gone out there to see my cousin who had worked out there. I didn't really know anybody getting back from the Army, and she's one of the few people I knew. Her boss gave me a job about the latter part of June, and so I ended up working out there. What ended up happening was this girl kept harassing my boss until he had gotten had given her my phone number. This girl's name, by the way, was Ashley Red. Now, she had been out there times before with other people, which was no big deal. And then after I had originally given her my number so she'd leave my boss alone, but I had told her that I wanted to speak to her parents. I felt it was appropriate for me, being 25, to speak to her parents. I was hoping her mom or her dad or whoever would, kind of wave her off on the whole thing. What ended up happening was her mom just kind of left things alone, and then they kept telling me about how there was all these issues with the home, violence, and drugs, and a whole bunch of other things stemming from this girl's father. And October of 2005, I was contacted by Trooper Duckworth of the State Police because there was some incident that he wanted to speak to me about. I came down, we had talked, he had told me he had heard some things, and then he had told me some stuff, and I had told him some things that I had heard. One of these primarily involved in the situation was that I was told that her father could do what he wanted because he was friends with the Kirks, and the Kirks could do whatever they wanted because of who they were, and almost if there was some type of mafia or something. And I had told him about, what they had told me about the violence at home and everything else, but I had no knowledge of the situation as far as what was going on with them. Now, what had followed with that, the actual situation was this. I had been called about 10:30 by Ashley Redden because Leah had took off with some guys that were drinking there at the house with them to go to Tobacco Town, and they had apparently left her there. Having left her there, she couldn't get back to the house and didn't know what to do, was freaking out because her parents were on their way back. So I agreed to give this girl to go ahead and pick this girl up and take her home because I didn't want her just being left out there all by herself. And so I did. On the way there, my tire had blown out because some drunk guys wanted to play chicken, and I swerved out of the road because a tiny-ass Dodge Neon does not match up to a big-ass pickup truck. Drove across some fencing, barbed wire or something, and blew my tire, and had actually had a choice of taking the car over the hill, or, kind of putting it between this big dirt pile and a telephone pole, which I took the dirt pile and the telephone pole. And I had gone out, got her home, her parents were already there, there was a whole issue, they were pissed off, and I left. Now, I didn't wait around to talk to them, none of this bullshit. So what had ended up happening was I'd been called by Trooper Duckworth to answer some questions, came out to answer some questions, and I was truthful to him as much as I wanted to be. I didn't lie to the man, I just simply, had essentially told him what had happened, but he was wanting details about my life that I just didn't feel like giving him, so I didn't give them to him. Such as alibis and everything else. Well, what had happened was following this, I had someone follow me around, stalking me. I later know, I'll now have a pretty good idea of who this individual is. But eventually I had gone to the Beckley Police Department to have something done about it. They said they couldn't do anything because these people who were following me around, they were also following my mother around, and she was freaked out. So they sent me to the sheriff's office. So I went to the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office at the time was undermanned, so they sent me to the state police, and this is when Trooper Duckworth wanted to talk to me. And this time, he came back telling me that he had known like a whole bunch of stuff and started telling me that I had lied to him and trying to coerce my statement, kept motioning towards his gun. So every time he would start the tape in the interview room, I would tell him plain and simple, hey, I'll say whatever you want. I already told you I'll say whatever you want, please don't shoot me. Kind of pissed him off a little bit, but I wasn't going to just be put in a situation where someone was going to threaten me into coercion, so I just acted stupid and kept saying, well, I told you I'll say what you want, because when you willingly, when you actually show that you're intelligent and that you are resisting coercion, they tend to switch tactics, but when you keep playing the game but pretend you're too stupid to realize you're playing the game, they fall for it every time. So what essentially ended up happening was he took me up to magistrate court because he told me he already had a warrant for me. So on the way to magistrate court, he turns on the, pushes the buttons on the mirror and turns on the camera in the car and says, so let me get this straight. You said this happened. And I was like, yeah. He goes, and you said this happened. Yeah. He's like, well, you got to get up there and you're going to tell all these things to the magistrate too. And I was like, look, man, I already told you. I'll say whatever you want me to say. Just don't go grabbing your gun on me because it freaks me out, makes me think you want to shoot me. And he got madder than hell and turned the camera off. So we get up there after trying to coerce a confession out of me to something I didn't do 3 times in the state police department, once in the car on the way there. He gets me there in front of Magistrate Massey, and the first things out of Massey's mouth is, why'd you do it? And I said, why'd I do what? And he looks at me and says, don't play stupid with me, boy. And I'm like, I ain't playing stupid. I'm just playing stupid. Which, yeah, it was. But the fact of the matter is they never forced me into a confession. And the entire evidence in this case was based on my word against theirs. Now, found out that there were certain issues. There was another boy who was found in the backyard with a duffel bag full of liquor bottles. Had no idea who he was. But he was allowed to leave. He didn't make a statement to the police, being a minor, didn't have his parents' permission, who didn't want to leave a statement without, lawyers present. And there was some issue with, no one really knowing what the hell was going on. So the parents were saying whatever, and the kids were going along with it, and there were people there that they didn't even know who the hell they were, and I just got caught in a really fucked up situation. Well, the day after that, I get called by Teresa Redden, actually Redden's mother, and she wanted to talk to me and everything, and I explained to her what had happened, and she had told me she had heard the same story from Ashley, that they had called me because Leah had been left out somewhere when she had left with some guys, and that, there was a whole messed up situation, that she would explain things to them and everything else, and I was like, okay, and I just kind of left it at that. Now, that was October of 2005, December, actually around Christmas Eve was when I was arrested, and so right around Christmas Eve was when I was arrested, and that was the incident of the first case. When I'd gone to my preliminary hearing in court, my pretrial motions hearing in magistrate court, I argued with my public defender, Gary Wayne Frazier, for an hour and 45 minutes to take a plea bargain to something I didn't want to take a plea bargain to, knowing they had no evidence, knowing that the officer had threatened me and coerced me and everything else, and I was told by Frazier, well, they can do that. Well, first of all, asshole, no, they can't. Grabbing a gun and trying to coerce you into making a statement is a nonverbal threat to shoot you. So that is the threat of force used to coerce you into making a false statement. I wasn't going to do it, and fuck that. So I argued for an hour and 45 minutes. Finally, Duckworth comes into the room and says, he's going to do the thing. If he doesn't do the thing, we'll do the other thing and press the additional charges. So what essentially ends up happening is I asked Duckworth what happened, what other thing, what additional charges. He says I have to ask my lawyer, and my lawyer tells me I have to ask the cop. I just tell Duckworth he needs to leave the room. He stands there and smiles at me. So I stood up and told him if he wasn't going to leave the room, I was going to leave the room. I had every intention of getting Magistrate Humphrey and telling him, the cops are harassing me again. And this resulted in Duckworth pushing me back into the chair, walking into the room, shutting the door, grabbing me by the throat, putting his hand on his gun and saying, now listen here. At which point I proceeded to kick his ass. This is actually a matter of court record, by the way. The sheriff, the one before Tanner, said he was in the security room when I had punched Duckworth and his head had hit the wall, had said that I had hit him so hard that it shook the entire security room. Now, following this whole thing, what ended up happening was, other than the fact that I kicked the crap out of Duckworth, was I was charged and made bond the same day. It was actually really hilarious in a way. Following this, I explained everything that occurred to a friend of mine who was a Virginia police officer. He was also one of my NCOs in the 304th MPs, and he said this didn't seem right, so he got me in contact with a federal marshal who got me in contact with the number for the FBI. Now, I called the FBI. The FBI agent threatened my mother, and Ashley Redden over the phone had hinted that something might happen to them, that I was guilty. I should just take my plea bargain. I know I'm guilty. I should just shut up and accept it. And at which point I openly threatened him for the simple fact that I wanted I wanted him to charge me so that I could file a motion of discovery to get the phone recording of him threatening me. This guy I had hung up with him after the first time, and then he called me back saying, I heard you were going to kill Trooper Duckworth, and da-da-da, and I'm like, nope, I don't know what you're talking about. Nope, not a clue. I heard you were like all badass and you was in the Army and the Marine Corps. Nope, no, I wasn't. I thought you know jiu-jitsu and da-da-da. Nope, no clue. I'm just a street fighter. I learned shit by watching the Power Rangers. Yep, okay. Bye. Hung the phone up. Called me back a third time. Third time he was trying to talk to me. I went along with it, ripped the battery out of my phone so they couldn't track me by GPS, and ended up doubling back on my position, and then taking a little side route out from it. Ended up on that path behind Captain D's, watching Beckley police cars drive around in circles looking for me. The next day, I was arrested for assaulting a police officer because a made-up FBI agent who doesn't exist says that I tried to kill Trooper Duckworth. There was also a stalking charge for Ashley Redden attached to it, and the second contributing charge coming from her. This time they said that I tried to rape Ashley Redden. Now, the fun part about this whole situation is that when we filed discovery to get the recording of the police officer, it was dismissed. Then we went to wanted discovery on the stalking case. That was also dismissed, primarily because that meant we would get phone records and everything else from Teresa and Ashley Redden showing that they had been in contact with me. Very specifically before this stuff had occurred, which would ruin anything for delinquency charges. Then there was the delinquency charge, which was later dismissed on appeal when Ashley said that the cop, the prosecutor, and her mother made her go into court and say that she thought I was going to rape her, which is coercing a witness. So in combination, in the first case, you're looking at FBI agents who don't exist, coercing a witness, just a whole bunch of lying and shit going on. Well, I between that and the current case, I had done some investigative work, found out that Trooper Duckworth is directly related to Trooper Williams by his sister being married to him. So his partner, Trooper Williams, is also his brother-in-law, who is also blood related to the Reddens. And then this kind of falls into this interesting little situation. Who are also close personal friends with Mary Jennings, and I can't lay all that out right now because of the time confinement on my phone. So, given a couple of years, I did my year of house arrest, and what had happened was that the last month I was on house arrest, Ashley Redden got in contact with a friend of mine to get in contact with me. She stayed in contact with me for a little over 6 months until New Year's, when we were supposed to spend New Year's together to sit there and work out what all had gone on and everything else. But because I kept pressing and asking for answers, she had kind of pulled away from me, lied to me a bunch of times and everything else. But we had stayed in contact through other people and over MySpace, which gives me a great deal of messages and things to look into as physical evidence, so that shows it. Anyways, at a certain point I was approached by 3 guys who threatened to beat my ass because they heard that I actually said that I raped her. And after realizing I was going to back down, the whole thing ended up with a bunch of shit talking, but nobody did anything. Everything was fine for about a week or so until I had talked to this girl, Sarah Dean, who had told me that Ashley was running around saying this stuff, and I had went to the MacArthur Walmart where I actually worked at, where she told me she worked at, to ask her, if she was really saying this stuff or if people were just making it up. I wasn't really all that concerned. I just wanted answers. If she told me somebody was making it up, it would have been cool. We got into an argument, and at a certain point, she jumps up and tells me, you did it, you, and it dropped to an inaudible whisper. That was when I called her a lying, two-faced whore just like her mommy. I chose those words specifically because those were the words that her dad used every time, or that she told me her dad used every time that he had beaten the crap out of her and her mom. And so she ran off, and then the state police had brought these supposed stalking charges on me. I had all this evidence on my computer to prove that she was in contact with me. In 2 years, Mingo Winters never filed a motion of discovery. In 2 years, the prosecutor's office never filed a motion of discovery, because filing a motion of discovery means you have to show your hand as well as get the other guy's hand. And the lawyer I had before Mingo Winters, who was mysteriously disbarred for something that I still don't know, she filed a motion of discovery that in 2 years the prosecutor's office never responded to. So questions arise there. Now, the issue with the evidence is that the text messages she's using to prove that I was stalking her start January 27th, but the warrant and her own testimony says that I got in contact with her around New Year's. So why the 26-day gap between New Year's and then? Oh, because that would be me talking about how we had talked before. Phone records go back 6 months. This goes into why they took my computers with the idea of trying to suppress evidence. Since I knew they were trying to suppress evidence, and this falls into the whole issue of what they were trying to cover up, the warrant for the stalking charges tries to validate everything that they lost in court on the delinquency case. And it's even more interesting that they took my computers, because when they took my computers February 25th of 2011, I had wrote a letter to the forensics lab March 10th stating they would find child porn on the dump memory of my computers, because they caught my Uncle Thomas Keller downloading it. If they had looked on my BlackBerry, they would find the argument between me, my Uncle Thomas Keller, and Karen Carlock, where I called him out for being friends with Deputy Jason Redden, for claiming that the police would protect him, for Karen being an informant for Trooper Duckworth. This whole issue, because I was going to testify against him in the molestation case he had for his son, and there was other issues that got caught into it. At this point in time, Tommy actually admitted to downloading the child porn when I had thrown that up in his face, which was all being recorded on my BlackBerry, but he didn't know about. In the letter, I had actually called the BlackBerry an Android, because I usually use an Android-style phone. I found out after my arrest that October 26th of 2011, Trooper Eford had taken evidence out of the forensics lab, which is why you hear Lieutenant Deeds asking for the password to my BlackBerry, because they had removed it from the forensics lab and had to be investigated by a forensics lab to keep from having this evidence exposed. And then you come into the fact that you have the various recordings of Trooper Eford and me, the whole threat to bring the child porn charges on me. The fact that until April 13th, 2011 was when I called Captain White of Professional Status of the State Police, and told him if he didn't do anything about Lieutenant Deeds, I was going to go to the superintendent. April 14th, they get the warrant for child pornography. So what you're looking at here is a situation where they falsely arrested me, tried to set me up for a greater criminal charge. I escaped it by the skin of my teeth, and then they tried to set me up again, validating that original charge, and then they tried to cover up evidence validating that original charge. And all of this keeps going back to the criminality and the involvement in the original case. Now, why this took place, I don't know. Why these people all seem to be associated, I don't know. But I've heard things that I've been told from Jessica Lilly, DJ Lilly, Nathan Lilly, John Nathan Lilly, Ashley Redden, that they have told me about their parents, which all, talk about organized crime and various things. All these people are related to police officers, have various ties to other little criminal groups and everything, and seem to be, protected by the police, which is evidence in the fact of when I got jumped by Nathan Lilly. Also evidence in the fact of, trying to be set up by DJ Lilly, Amanda Brewer, and that gay drug dealer Jerome, and all the stuff which is already on the internet. So that's the whole story, and it's not one incident. It's actually a combination of at least 3 different incidents, with a few things in and of it that really little sidebar issues that haven't been brought directly into the main story of it, but that's basically the bulk of it. It sounds convoluted, complicated, because it's not a single incident, it's a repeated incident of multiple occurrences. My students have been harassed, which is pretty much why I don't teach publicly anymore. My ability to run a business has been hampered. The only thing I do is these little camps and a few quick courses. I do teach in private, but that's predominantly it. That's the entire situation, the entire story of the war I've been fighting in my hometown, dealing with corruption and crime. This is everything that has happened. And now you see where all these small little bits of evidence kind of fit in to explain things in other places. That's it. The whole story. As twisted and messed up as it sounds. In the end, no good deed goes unpunished. And, don't try to help people in West Virginia. They just are setting you up to be arrested for something. I have no idea. It's just, hey. It's what being a hero gets you, or trying to do the right thing, any of that. It's just makes your life miserable. It was better to be the bad guy after all.